and welcome to the Reaper. So another very educational video today, one we've been waiting for a long time to do, but we're finally getting on with it, me and the boys. So what is RWR? Well, if we look to the left here, we've got the pulse Doppler radar. I've done a video on that already. This is the F-15 we're flying, by the way. That is a radar that looks forwards, allows you to proactively find targets and search and lock them and destroy them and all that good stuff. That's great, but over here we've got the RWR, that is the radar warning receiver, and this is primarily for the defense of our aircraft. Can be used in offense, as we'll look at later, but it is primarily for defense. So how does this RWR work? In very, very simple terms, I will try and show you. If we go to the outside of our plane here, there are radiation receiving centres on the periphery of the aircraft, most likely on the two wingtips, probably on the back. There's some on the tail fin pointing backwards, and one or more on the nose pointing forwards. So they sense like a cone, if you like, a 45-degree cone, kind of like up at that angle for this wingtip and down at that angle for this wingtip, and at the rear up like that and then down like that, and so on. So you've got a series of cones poking out from this aircraft, and with all those cones, overlapping cones, we can get a full 360-degree display around the aircraft. Now it's important to point out at this point that there are dead zones in the system. For instance, the radar cones only point up or cover up to about 45 degrees, which is there, and about down to about 45 degrees, which is there. So if anything is attacking us from above 45 degrees, say up there, like a guy that's aggressing from a harsh angle, we won't. It's not covered by the RWR, and we won't get any defense warnings against that. So that's a weak spot. And again, if we look down, if a SAM was firing at us from that kind of angle down, we wouldn't get any warnings again. It's really a lateral 45-degree lateral coverage. So there's something to bear in mind. It's something that I learned recently. So if we move to the display here, so we just cover the visual aids first of all, and I should mention this is what I call the NATO type RWR display. So the F-15 has it, the F-5 Tiger has it, or a similar, at least a similar display. No, not exactly the same, obviously. The Mirage 2000 has it, the AV-8B Harrier, and I'm sure many other NATO type aircraft. That's different to the Russian one. We'll cover the Russian one after this. I prefer this one because it's got a nice digital display here. It's very easy to read. So let's go and look at our threats. So we're in our particular airspace here, and we've picked up 3 threats, possible threats that the system is telling us about. So we've got the an E2 at the 10 to 11 o'clock here. That is an AWACS type aircraft that is detected. We can tell that it's an airborne threat because it has a chevron. If we zoom right in, a chevron just above it. So it doesn't tell us whether that is hostile or a friendly AWACS. The RWR can't tell you IFF, i.e. whether it's friendly or hostile. The pulse Doppler system over here can tell you. It does have an interrogating IFF system. So this just tells you there is something out there emitting radiation. It's up for you to proactively determine whether it's hostile or friendly. To the right for 12 o'clock, we've got a 29, so that is a MiG-29 in this case. Just out of interest, it could also be an Su-27. For some reason, we can't determine between a MiG-29 and an Su-27.
They use the same radar.
Ah, right. The reason why it can't determine between an Su-27 and a MiG-29 is that those two planes both use pretty much or exactly the same radar, and it's those radar emissions that this system is looking at. So that's an interesting thing. Again, we can see it's an airborne threat. It's got a chevron above it, and it's got a diamond around it. That's the defense system telling us it thinks that that is the primary threat. So we could have loads of threats. We could have 8 different threats around our aircraft, and it's going to decide for us what it thinks is the most dangerous threat. And it's probably right in this case. It's a MiG-29 that's heading towards us. So, yep, there you go. And finally, it's got an SD, a snowdrift radar. That is the search and destroy radar from a SA-11 Book SAM system. So that's out there somewhere on the ground. So you'll notice that, and you can obviously it's a 360 display. So if it were below us, we are the cross in the middle. If it were below us on the display, it would be behind us. Now you'll notice some are closer to us and some are further away from us. Now that is not necessarily the distance that the actual radar emitting object is. What that's telling us is the strength of the radiation signal, the strength of the radar signal that is picked up. That can roughly equate to the distance that the object is from us, but just be very careful with that, because if the object that's emitting the radar has got a very weak radar signal, it could actually be very close, but it could be shown far away on this display. So it's the strength of the radiation signal is the distance between the object and us. So it can, as you see, tell between different threats basically each object or each radar emitting object, like the E2 or the 29 or the Snowdrift radar, has a certain radar signature that we can detect, and that's how we determine basically which type of threat it is, whether it's an AWACS, whether it's SAM, Snowdrift, whether it's a 29. And as you can see, there's a slight inaccuracy there. It doesn't know whether it's a 29 or a 27 because they have the same radar. So that's how that works. I should also explain that this RWR is primarily defensive, but it can be used for offensive purposes. So let's say that we're hunting this MiG-29. Let's ignore the other two things, and we're hunting this MiG-29. Let's say that he's turned his radar off. In that case, we will, and we've got, in this case, our radar off. We're not proactively searching for him that way. We're just going to use the RWR. So if he's got his radar off, then we won't see anything at all. We won't see him at all. But if he turns his search radar on, he will be emitting radiation, and then we can find him using this RWR. We'll be able to basically find his direction, his azimuth from this RWR relatively accurately, and his distance not very accurately, as we talked about before, but it gives us a good bearing of where we think he is. And bearing in mind that he doesn't know where we are at the moment because we've got our radar off. So that's an example how we can hunt a target purely using the RWR, and Flanker and a MiG-29's a real a specialist at doing this because it can lock onto targets from a long way away using just its passive FLIR. So Flanker, for instance, doesn't even need to turn its main radar on. It can just use its RWR to detect a target, find out what that target is roughly, and then lock onto it with its passive FLIR system. So that's an example of how it can be used in what I call like a stealth mode with your radar off to find and hunt targets.
If you get a radar warning receiver contact, that doesn't necessarily mean that the scanning aircraft sees you. It just lets you know that you are being scanned by some radar.
Absolutely. And one question I have at this point is, would we pick that MiG-29 up on our RWR if we were outside of that MiG-29 scan cone? Obviously, the MiG-29 has a scan cone in front of it, about 60 degrees or something. If it was, say, facing away from us, how did this RWR still pick it up? Because it does, doesn't it? When you're chasing a MiG-29 and its radar is facing away, how can we still pick that up? It must be kind of splash that the MiG-29 radar is sending out in all angles. Would you agree with that?
It definitely shouldn't pick that up, but I don't know how it's modeled in DCS for the F-15 because it's not my primary aircraft, but I think it could just be radar warning receiver lag. For example, in the Mirage, it's rather prominent, so you get these scan indications even though the emitter is long gone.
Roger. So that's interesting then. So in theory, we think you should only get a radar signal, a radar warning signal here if you are within the cone, scan cone of the the hostile, the MiG-29 in this case. In reality, I've seen it where we're definitely not in the scan cone, but we still see that signal. So we don't know if it's purely lag from this system updating, or if it works like that in real life. We don't know. Maybe there's some radar splash coming out from the MiG-29 heading in different directions. So that'd be nice if someone else who does know about that can fill us in, because we don't know. So there you go. What we do know is that these RWRs in DCS, which is what we use, obviously, we're not real pilots, is not 100% accurate. We have spoken to people who actually make these things, and they are not 100% accurate, but for our purposes, they're accurate enough.
According to the manual, it displays threats for up to 7 seconds, so it could be lag.
Right, so it displays a threat for up to 7 seconds, so that MiG-29 could turn its radar off, and we'd probably still see it for another 7 seconds due to the lag for whether that's DCS or whether that's real world, we don't know, but that's something to think about. So, just quickly onto the symbology. We covered it earlier, but we're just going to go into a bit more detail. So, the diamond means that it's the primary threat, and the chevron above the radiation source shows that it is an airborne threat. So now, semicircle above the target.
Semicircle above means a new mark.
Ah, right. So it's just picked up this E2 Sentry. It may have gone offline for a bit, and now it's come back on. So that means it's a new mark.
When there's a missile launch, it will have the bottom circle will come in flashing.
Roger that. So we'll see that. I'm sure we'll get launched on at that point. And is there a full circle one, or have I got that wrong? And what's the full?
The full flashing circle is when basically it is, for example, a separate radar missile, active missile. You have a full flashing circle.
An example of that would be an AMRAAM that has a radar on board. Yes. Okay, I didn't actually know that, so it's a bloody good job we're doing this. Okay, we're going to run through our real-world simulation now, so stand by. So you can see that the Snowdrift does not have a chevron above it. That's telling us it is, in this case, a ground threat radar. Now we're heading towards this MiG-29. You can hear a bit of beeping going on. That's our RWR telling us that we're not being spiked, but we are being painted as it's called, by a radar. It doesn't tell us which radar. Most likely the MiG-29, as I know for a fact that's coming straight towards us. The dots, the beeps are very infrequent at the moment, which means the amount of radiation that we're detecting is not high. So it's just a loose warning at the moment. So we're going to keep travelling forward and see what changes. And we see that the beeps are now very, very fast in this F-15. So that means that we have been spiked. I'm going to pause it there. It means we've been spiked by the hostiles. It means that their MiG-29, as opposed to the Snowdrift, has got a lock on us, basically. That's what it's telling us. And we can tell it's not a silent lock, like a track while scan lock, because that wouldn't give us a warning. So it's a full, what I call a full-blooded STT lock from that MiG-29. So let's carry on. So we're now getting a good warning that guy's got a lock on us and we should do something about it. As well as that, you can see it's getting closer to us, or at least the signal strength is getting stronger because that 29 is getting closer and closer to the cross, whereas the Snowdrift and the AWACS are not getting closer. So we're just going to head straight towards it and see what happens next. And we have a launch warning. So you heard a wah, wah, wah. That is a launch warning. And you can see, as well as that, we've got a flashing circle around the MiG-29, which is also the primary threat as it has the diamond in. So, chaps, the flashing circle means that that hostile has fired a Fox 1 on us, doesn't it? I.e. a semi-active missile.
Fox 1s, you will get the flashing bottom part of the circle from the launch aircraft. You won't actually get a signature from the missile itself because it doesn't have an active radar.
That's exactly right. So the missile is firing. This is a Fox 1. We can tell that, just to reiterate, because it's got a flashing circle around the 29. We can't see an actual missile being shot at us because the missile doesn't actually have a radar on board. It's been guided from the Mothership 29. Now, I haven't actually set an example up for this, but if instead of that it was a Fox 3 being fired at us, i.e. an AIM-120 AMRAAM, which does have an onboard radar, then we'd actually see displayed on here an actual missile being displayed on here, an extra radar threat. So that's one thing to bear in mind. So we can't see the actual missile on here if it's a Fox 1. We can if it's a Fox 3. And that's actually one thing that's slightly helpful for us to, if we're defending against a Fox 3, is we can see where the missile is, we can see if the signal strength is getting stronger or colder, so therefore we can tell if we're dodging that missile. With a Fox 1 like this, we can't actually tell where the missile is, and we can't really, therefore, tell if we're dodging that missile or not. So that's just something to bear in mind as well.
For a Fox 3, especially for the AMRAAMs, you will only see that missile warning when it goes pitbull.
Roger, good point. So just to reiterate that point, Fox 3, as we know, fires, first of all, it travels purely on its own mothership's radar. Then, at a pre-designated point, it turns on its own radar and detaches from the mothership's radar, which is known as going pitbull. We've done a video about this as well. At which point it becomes detected on the RW at that point and becomes its own threat. So, we're going to keep going. We've got our radar warning still, our flashing circle, and he's locked, so that missile's still coming towards us. If we look out our front, we can see the bloody missile coming. So, I would have to dodge this. I'm not going to dodge this because we don't need to. We're still getting that warning. The audio warning, the wah, wah, wah. Is that any relevance, chaps?
I'm not sure, but I believe that's to do with missile launch.
Roger, and now I'm hit, and I would be dead if I wasn't invincible.
The 45-degree angle thing, it might affect like how you defend yourself, because when you turn, like for example, when you turn a full 90 degrees away from him, as in vertically, you will lose the spike for a while because it's not in your coverage.
Okay, and to reiterate that, we're going to actually show that standby. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn left and I'm going to bank kind of away from this hostile. And what you'll see is they actually disappear from the RWR, and that's because they're no longer within my 45-degree cone. They'll actually be at my belly at that kind of angle, and you'll see them disappear. Standby. Burner's on, and I'm going to bank away from the target. And you see it disappeared there. Everything's disappeared because they're out of my radar cone. They're coming back now because they're getting back into my radio cone. Okay. That's briefly explained the NATO type system, and it's not just for the pilots, it's also for the viewers at home. So when they hear all the beeps in my cockpit and all the wah 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 warnings and all these different pretty patterns down here, it's now explaining what they are and why and how we react to them. Now we're going to jump over to what we call the Russian type system, which I hate, but I'm sure it's just as effective, so stand by for that. Okay, so now you join us in Su-27 flanker, and it has this type of RW. Again, it's down to the right. Completely different to what we call the NATO types. The NATO type's digital, very easy to use. This is a kind of like a prehistoric light space system, and I hate it. I really struggle to use it, but again, like anything, once you've mastered it, it can be extremely useful. So we're just going to go over very quickly what all the indications are. So my understanding is at the top, and we'll in the video I'll link like a key showing you a better description. We've got some lights around the top. You can see we've got 10 and 10 highlighted. Those are azimuths from the front of the aircraft, so that's 10 degrees right, 10 degrees left, and you can see 30 degrees, 50 degrees, 90 degrees, and also behind us. I'm guessing that they are the actual sensors, so there's probably a sensor, I imagine, peripheral sensor for every one of those. And you can see that the two tend to have lit up, they're the ones at the front, and we know from our experience from this map that that is going to be the hostile MiG-29. Again, it doesn't tell us whether it's friendly or whether it's hostile. This system can't tell you that. It doesn't have a IFF interrogator, but it can tell. So those lights showing at the 10 degrees show that the primary threat in this case is at the 10 degrees. And the green light shows that there is a target there. Now you can also see that there is another green light out to the 50 degrees to the right. We know from our experience that that is the snowdrift radar. So it's telling us it's not the primary threat because it hasn't got the yellow markings on the degrees sign. So that 50 degrees is not lit up. So it's what they call a secondary target. And there can be multiple secondary targets. There could be like 8 secondary targets. So I find it very confusing. But at the moment it's telling us there is a primary threat in front. Now, if we look at the strength, what I call the strength bar, so we can see the curved dotted line. The right-hand side, where the dotted line terminates, is essentially infinity, and the triangle on the other side in yellow is essentially us. And this, the amount of dotted lines that are highlighted are showing the strength. So if the strength is right all the way around to the triangle, it's a very high strength, and therefore it's likely the hostile is very, very close to us. If there's hardly any of those lines illuminated, and it's, say, only the first segment is illuminated, it's a very, very weak radar, and the chances are the hostile is a long, long way away, or the radiation signal is a long way away. So we can see that it's about 75% threat at the moment, so it's probably, very roughly in my head, 20, 30 miles, something like that, which we know from our experience is just about right. As well as that, we can tell whether the hostile is above or below us. So we can see the two semicircles in our little MiG-21 kind of picture that we've got there. If just the upper part was illuminated, then the primary threat is above us. Just the lower part was illuminated, then the primary threat is below us. If both are illuminated, then the primary threat is roughly the same. So that's telling us which threats are where, or which angle to the aircraft, and which is decided the primary, and how far the primary threat is away from us, roughly, and whether it's above or below us at the elevation. So all we need now is to know what type of threats they are. So in the NATO type radar, it tells us via a lovely bit of writing, like a 2.9 and an E2 and stuff like that, very easy to use. Here we've got something different. We've got lights. So what we can say is that the green M on the left with the light there is showing us that the primary threat, and you can tell it's the primary threat because it's got the yellow light on the bottom, is as an aircraft. So that is an aircraft radar. That leftmost signal there is always an aircraft radar. And those other signal lights, as we go right, are different types of radar. We can see the X there. The green X is showing that's our secondary intercept, which is our one at 50 degrees there. And we know it's secondary because it doesn't have the yellow light on. It's in the third slot, so we can tell that that is a ground-based radar system. Now, chaps, can you just go from 1 through to 6 and tell us what each of those mean, please?
So from left to right, it's airborne radar. The 3 symbol is a long-range radar. X is a medium-range radar. H is a short-range radar. F is a early warning radar. And C is AWACS.
Right, thanks. So I got that wrong. I thought it was ground radar. It was not ground radar. It was medium-length radar.
If like all the middle ones are all ground radars.
Oh, right, gotcha. Okay, and again, we'll show a little link up to the description of these because I don't really know them off by heart, which is probably why I always get shot down on my flanker. Okay, so that's that system. Other than that, everything essentially works the same as the F-15 NATO system. It's just displayed differently.
According to the manual, it's actually got a slightly less elevation coverage than the NATO one. It's got 30 degrees instead of 45.
Right, so that's a real problem then. So 30 degrees, if I look in my cockpit here, is only up to kind of that kind of level. So anything above my A-frame, essentially, I can't see with my RWR. So that's a huge Achilles heel of this Russian type of threat radar. All you've got to do is come down above 30 degrees, which is very easy, and you'll be essentially completely invisible to a Russian RWR. So there's something to, and again, same below, something to factor in. And when you're flying a flanker or a MiG-29 or a MiG-21 or whatever, you've got to factor that in when you're looking at your radar signals. Okay, I'm just going to fly it through and get shot again, basically. So stand by. I'm going to put autopilot on so she flies straight and level, and I'm going to fly straight into this hostile.
Something I want to add is if you get clustered with radar signatures in the Russian style, you just press right shift R and it removes the acquisition mode radars, so it only focuses on the important bits.
Right, so if you had, say, eight signals you were getting, and you pressed, what was that, right shift and R, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
So what does that actually do? Which signals does it remove, and which does it keep? Does it only keep the primary threat, or? Pretty
much. So if there's an aircraft just scanning around, not really targeting you in particular, it's just going to neutralize it. It doesn't display it. But if it detects a spike, such as a single target track or close proximity radar, then it's going to show it to you.
Right, that's really useful, and why don't we try doing that now as an example and see if it ignores the snowdrift radar. So stand by. Okay, now I'm spiked. I'm going to try right shift R. Oh yeah, you're right, it gets rid of the snowdrift. Okay, lovely job. So, something I forgot to mention. So we've got the audio signals and the lock warning. So we're now being spiked by the hostile. That means he's physically getting an STT lock on us. So we can tell that because we've got the continuous tone, the beep that you can hear. And also we're getting this big red circle showing that he's got he's spiking us, he's got a radar lock on us. And you can also see we've got an extra threat at 30 degrees to the left as well. We know from our previous experience that that is actually the AWACS, so it's picking up the AWACS now as well. Anyway, so let's carry on and get shot and show what it's going to show us. So we've got the continuous beeps, we've got the continuous tone, so it's got a lock on us. Again, if we turn this aircraft around to the left and put our belly to the hostile, they would all disappear, including that lock. We won't be getting the radiation signal. So I've got no idea where he is. I think I can see him there. Oh, okay, and we've got a warning tone. So it's now going beep, 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 and the red is flashing. That's the worst thing you can have. That means that there is a missile out for us, and it's detected there's a missile being fired at us, so there's a world of pain. That's how you know that. And let's just run it through and get shot. And I can see it, and I don't like the look of it.
Something to note is if you get targeted by a Fox 3, the signal strength pretty much corresponds with the range.
Roger, so just to reiterate that, if this is a Fox 1 that's being fired at us, so it doesn't have an onboard radar. If it was a Fox 3, then the strength bar that I was talking about earlier on, would give us the range for that Fox 3 to us, which is bloody useful because it helps us know where it is and helps us dodge it. We wouldn't be able to see it with our eyes, but we could see it with this, essentially. Now, this is a Fox 1, so all that's giving us now is the strength of the mothership, and we can see it is now fully barred, so it's maximum strength. So basically, that MiG-29 mothership is right on top of us, and we'll probably see him fly by us any second. And pow! Right in the chops. Fox 1, we're dead. We've still got a lock on us, because that's the aircraft that's locking us, is now fired an R-73, or whatever is firing at us. We're dead, again. And let's be interested, let's just see what happens when he goes behind us now. So he's now behind us, let's see if we can pick him up. And there you go, there he is. Primary threat is now on our left rear elevon basically. And now it's gone because he's turned his radar off, and now it's back. So you can see that how quickly he can pick it up when he's behind us.
Just a bit of a technical thing. Most aircraft really do not have 8 radar warning receivers. They have one a wingtip, one a front, one at the tail fin, and they extrapolate the direction using the signal strength difference.
So you kind of interpolate it between the left wing and the nose, and that's how you get that kind of 30-degree left. Right, understood. Most military planes do have these systems. Like for instance, the A-10. It's not a fighter plane, but it does have it because it's defense. It needs to know all the same things that an F-15 knows. What about kind of military cargo planes like a Galaxy? Do you reckon that has one?
I'd imagine so.
I'd imagine so, because there's no reason not to, and it will be flying in or near battle zones, and probably the same with tankers and stuff like that. So what we've got to tell you now, back in the F-15, is just how we communicate these threats, these RWR threats, to our buddies. You'll hear it all the time. We've picked up an AWACS at 11 o'clock, there you see, and we've picked a Snowdrift SA-11 search radar at 2 o'clock. So what we're going to do as soon as we get that is we're going to go to our comms, either our local comms or our global comms. If I were declaring this to all the flights, I would say all flights cap, nails, AWACS, 11 o'clock. And that's how I would tell the guys that all the flights, and it's me that's saying it, cap, that I've detected an AWACS at 11 o'clock, and you can tell that it's an RWR warning because it's a nails. That's what we called it. Nails means that we are detecting their radar signal. It doesn't mean they're firing at us. It doesn't mean they're locking us. It means that we've detected their radar signal. We might want to add a bit of information there as well. What I often do is I might say AWACS 80 miles, because I know just from pure experience that roughly that radar strength from AWACS is about 80 miles-ish, something like that. So we can add that if you're confident at it. And then we will come on, I would say, all flights cap, Snowdrift, nails, 2 o'clock, close. So that would be telling all flights that cap is seen a nails, i.e. an RWR radar intercept, that there is a Snowdrift radar, that's an SA-11 site, to our 2 o'clock of current travel, and it's close. We know it's close because that radar strength is very high. You can see it's right near our cross, and that's given our guys all the information. If some of those guys might not be able to pick that radar warning up, which is very likely, all planes will be in different heights and whatnot, so that's telling the rest of the guys that that's happening. So one thing I've just been reminded of is that nails means an airborne radar threat. Mud nails, we're supposed to say if it's a ground. So I would have actually supposed to have said all flights cap, mud nails, Snowdrift 2 o'clock close. That would have told them, even though they know what a Snowdrift is, but that would have told them that it is a ground-based radar emission. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to charge on, try and get that MiG-29 again, try and get shot down again, and to see if there's anything to add. Okay, so we've got the 29 signalers back as our primary threat. It's an airborne threat, and it's a new threat. Let's hope hopefully he's going to lock us up. Stand by. Okay, there we go. Now, you've heard that before, that beep, 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 beeping sound. That means the hostile's got an STT lock on me, and he's probably about to fire. So at that point, that is becoming no longer a nails. It was a nails before, with just his icon on there, but now he is a spike. So at this point, it's all flights cap spike 12 o'clock MiG-29. Or it doesn't have to be in that order particularly, but it has to include that information. Who's making the call? That I am spiked, so he is locking me with an STT lock. What aircraft it is, a MiG-29, and which direction he is from me, so that's 12 o'clock. So that's what I'd say. And finally, if he launches a missile, he may not launch a missile. Let's see if he launches a missile. Okay, he hasn't because he's out of missiles, I think. But if he launched a missile, then I would do the call, cap, launch warning, 12 o'clock. So the other guys know that I'm being launched from 12 o'clock. There's a missile coming out. I probably won't get a chance to tell any more info, even though I do know more info, because in the fight, obviously, it's very chaotic. And you can see how quickly it's updated him. He's now behind us, and he's spiking us from behind. So that's pretty cool. And again, a mud spike would be if it was a ground that was locking us, a ground radiation or a ground unit that was locking us. So that's pretty comprehensive. We've covered various, the two different types, if you like, of RWR. We've covered the audios that they give and the visuals. Roughly how the technical system works, and how we communicate the results of the RWR with our teammates. So we hope you've enjoyed that, and we hope it helps you watch our videos and fly your planes and do whatever. So we'll see you later.